Good morning, guys. What is going on? Good morning. So, first stop, essential for a morning trip. We are actually on our way to go pick up a Ferd F15000 to get towed to go get fixed, because it is something that is out of the realm of Greg, which would also encompass air conditioning work. So that is what this truck has going on with it. So we are going to tow that thing to go get fixed, because obviously it cannot drive. I'll explain here in a little bit, but that is where we are at. We are just grabbing some coffee to get woken up. Okay, onward we go. Safety first. Ooh, good catch. So you can kind of see my truck is squatting a little bit. Put the camera down here. And I do not have the onboard air compressor, which looking back would have been a great idea. But we got our little air pump with some wire extensions that reach all the way back to the truck. So we're gonna put a couple pounds of air in the airbags. You can kind of see there's my air line right there. Goes to both of the bags. And of course I forgot my little stick that I usually hold, or my camera, my window mount thing, to not have to hold the camera, but Greg forgot that. So anyway, we've got about 20-25 pounds of air in the bags, which is making for a pretty smooth ride thus far. So, before anybody comments, let's keep the hate to a minimum, people, with the Ford and the Chevy and the Dodge and all that. I know in my title sometimes I lead on to that, but really, if you guys have been watching for a while, you know that I do not discriminate against any brand of any type of truck. So let's keep that down. This is not what that's about. But so the problem with this truck was apparently on the 6 liters, and don't quote me because I am by no means a Ford expert, the AC compressor that's driven by the serpentine belt, the actual compressor inside, like the clutch mechanisms, I guess, are somewhat gear driven, I believe. And when your AC compressor locks up, it literally, just like anything else, will probably try and throw your belt or rip your belt. In this case, it locked up, and when we went to go start it, it literally, and 6 liters need to see a certain cranking speed before they will start, I believe. So I think this is a pretty common problem, that the AC compressor literally being locked up and the belt trying to drag against that would not let it crank hard enough, even with new batteries and all that other jazz. So seeing that it needs AC work, I mean, obviously I can more than capable of throwing a new compressor on, but then it's got to go, get the full AC workup, kind of just like we just got done doing with the tow rig. So that is why it's technically headed to a shop to get this done. So that is where this truck is headed. I also think that it probably needs injectors, because it just sounds like crap. But I'm not saying that because it's a Ford, though, people. Calm down, calm down. So that's where we're headed. We're just dropping this off this morning. Tow pig doing what it does. Doing what it does. Usually I like to strap the front. I never like to strap from the body down, because you're like basically binding the suspension, and when you go over bumps and stuff, that suspension can move. But for some reason, the front axle on this thing, I know there could have been better ways to do it, but I strapped it right to the tow hooks. We're not going that far, and really the front axle on this thing is really, all the track bars and tie rods and stuff are pretty much right in the way. So probably could have done something a little bit different, but that's what we did. So here's what I was talking about. We just went right to the tow hooks, because on this axle, you can see it's a little rusty crusty, but there's not a whole lot of great spots. Usually I go right to the end of the axle tube there, right before the knuckle, but on this axle, there's really not a whole lot of room to do that on. So we just went right to here. That is definitely not the preferred method, I know, guys. But if you are gonna do that, I really did sink down the suspension quite a bit to take up any kind of bumps. But that's that, boys. We're gonna get this thing unloaded, and I'll see you guys probably later on this afternoon back at the house. Alrighty guys, back in the garage now. This is gonna be a much shorter video. We have a lot of running around and stuff to get caught up on and to do. So this is gonna be a shorter video. But we got our head studs in for the first gen, and I just wanted to kind of go over some 425, 625 stuff that I kind of saw being mentioned, things like that. So on here, you guys know that we use 625s quite a bit, and I've mentioned that they can be reused multiple times. Now, let's get a couple things straight here, because I know there might be a little misconception. I have no problems with, and they're actually called ARP 2000s. A lot of people call them 2000s, 425s, whatever, same difference, get over it. So, 2000s, they can be reused as well. I don't think I've ever said on here that ARP 2000s or 425s cannot be reused. I might have mentioned that they cannot be reused quite as often as 625. So you can reuse 425s, 425s, 2000s get torqued to 125. 625s get clamped to 150 or torqued to 150. So they have a higher clamping force load, however you want to call it. I'm not getting into technical details. They can get torqued higher to a higher spec, creates more clamping force. And so the whole thing with reusing head studs is ARP right in their instructions says, yes, you can reuse these. There's a measurement that you need to make sure that they are not head stud, even stock head studs. These head studs in general, when they're reused, tend to stretch. That's just the nature of the beast. The more you use them, things like that, they are gonna stretch. So they measure, or they recommend, I'm sorry, I know this is, but they recommend you measuring them before you reuse them. Now, raise a hand. How many people have ever measured a head stud? Probably not very many. So the fact that when I said that you possibly can't use them as many times is the fact that they might stretch. So I just have personally had better luck with 625s. There's plenty of ways to skin a cat. Some people reuse stock head bolts, never blow a head gasket. Some people run 1,000 horsepower on 425s and never have a problem. I just am the type to overbuild. And whether it's necessary or not, that doesn't make me wrong, that doesn't make you wrong for buying 425. So, I mean, there's, like I mentioned, there's plenty of ways to keep head gasket in check without having problems, and none of which are probably wrong. Whatever works for you. And on this channel, we build things the way that I like to and feel comfortable, and that is using 625s if and when possible. So, the first gen, does it need 625s? Probably not. We're probably not making anywhere near amount of power and have to worry about crazy head gasket problems, things like that. But I plan for the future. Who knows where it's going to end up, how many times we're going to reuse these head studs. So that is really the reason why. So nothing wrong with 2000s, nothing wrong with 625s. Hey, if you want to throw stock head bolts back in and you've never had a problem and you crank them extra or whatever you want to do, that's fine. I'm not saying that is wrong. So anyway, there's my rant about head studs, you know, like I mentioned, 625s just have a higher clamping load, force, torque, whatever you want to call it. They go to 150. 425s are recommended, or 2000s are recommended to 125. So, all right, guys, I think that's pretty much it. That's the head stud rant. We got our man Mikey G. He's going to be coming down. We're going to do some logging with the truck. We are getting closer and closer to the Cecil County Dragway this Sunday, August 6th. Starts at 10 spectators, I believe. He keeps saying 10 bucks. I can't remember. But make sure, if you don't have any plans Sunday, come out Sunday, Cecil County Dragway, Maryland, I believe. Yes, Rising Sun, Maryland, I believe. So we're going to get some tuning changes in this beast. A couple other little things. We'll be ready to go. Thank you guys so much for watching. I will see you guys tomorrow. Hit that like button before you leave. Subscribe.